we're tuning into that voice. That voice that's the inner voice, that guidance, that inner feeling that tells you, I got a feeling that you know exactly what to do. So why is it that we don't listen to that voice? Why is it that we disregard the momentum that builds inside of us, trying to prompt us to go in a different direction? Oh, but we lose ourselves in our heads. We lose ourselves in the energy of the thought process and the confusion. But the universe is always communicating with you. There's always this divine prompting. I kind of call it the nudge. And when they nudge and you don't answer, they push, right? And then there's that feeling inside that says, you've got to listen. So that feeling that comes in is your inner divine knowing. It's the connection to the divine. It's that song of someone's knocking on the door, somebody's ringing the bell. Do me a favor, open the door and let 'em in. Oh, yeah. We've got to let it in. We've got to let the feeling come through. So many of us are driven by our routine and what we do on a daily basis. And we lose ourselves in the day-to-day routine. And we don't stop to pause and feel the moment of what we're doing and how we're doing it. I had a conversation with someone earlier today. It was about a relationship. So many of you have relationship questions. But there's always a prompting, an inner feeling inside that kind of gives you that indicator, that green light, that yellow light, that red light, and tells you where the relationship is. And she was feeling a kind of way, a little angst, a little uncomfortability, not knowing where the relationship was going to go, and feeling the slight disconnect. But eternally, we will all feel this energy of disconnect from time to time because there's this eternal growth spurt that we have to all go through. There's this power of shifts and change in the human emotions. So the relationship is going through a change. But she's worried about what happens a few years from now. But in this moment of now, there's contentment, there's happiness, there's joy. It's working. It's just she's noticing some different energy. So does she worry and lose herself in the worry? Or does she just allow it to come to the surface without trying to figure out what it is, and then superimpose her thoughts and her fears into the relationship and complicating something? And the individual is going through a major change. There's loss, there's mourning, there's death in the family. So, of course, the relationship isn't going to be the same dynamic. It's not about her. It's about where this individual is at their crossroad in their personal and spiritual growth. And it's about them grieving and stepping into a new way of life without their relative. And we've all been there. And where have you been in your life where you've been in a story, maybe not the same story, but you found yourself taking something personally that really wasn't about you? And your inner self was saying, your higher self was saying, hey, it's okay. Everything's fine. Be at peace. We've got your back. Your angels are with you. Your guides are with you. There's an investment in time. This experience is playing out for the highest good, and just trust what happens next. But then we get our personality and our wounded feelings involved in the storyline underneath the surface, and now we have two voices going on inside of us. One is the fearful voice that says, oh my God, I don't want to get hurt again, or oh my God, I don't want to get fired, or I don't want this company to close, I might have difficulty finding a new job, or I don't want the doctor to tell me there's something really wrong with me. And we put ourselves in this tailspin, all counterproductive to us creating and being centered and in peace, knowing that there's a prompting that will lead us to all the right opportunities and experiences and wisdom that we need to navigate anything. But we all have an experience of growth. And that growth spurt is all about us discerning between our higher inner voice, the one that's divinely connected, and the mindless chatter that goes on inside of our heads that makes us hesitate and feel uncomfortable in situations based on past experiences and conditions. Now, yes, our past has taught us greatly. Each one of us has learned tremendous lessons from our past experiences. But just because we experienced a story one way does not mean it has to play out in the same fashion as it did before. And if you notice a pattern, if you notice that it begins to do exactly that, repeat the pattern, then we have to take a step back because the common denominator is you, and most often you're taking the past story and throwing it into the future and tripping yourself up. Because we are complicated. And the interesting thing about this spiritual journey is we are all here learning how to navigate experiences, seeing, feeling, hearing, touching, the sensories of life, and managing our personalities and other people's personalities and their wounds and our wounds. And yet God says, just be peaceful. Peace, be still. Be centered in yourself. Find that inner guidance and that knowing. This is all where we are. We are all in this learning curve of experiences. So the inner voice is nudging you to find peace. And I always say to people, how does it make you feel? Do you feel like you are safe and rewarded? Do you feel as if you're being seen and heard? Do you feel the connection? Does it bring some sense of stillness or harmony within? Is there that bubbling feeling of joy that comes up for you? You see, the divine speaks in many ways. There's a feeling that you get. Sometimes you actually get a sense of an outer voice that says, it'll be okay. Or, go this way, try this. It's that prompting. And then for many of us, the universe will communicate in a series of signs. And then you begin to notice. You notice the patterns that appear. You keep seeing repetitive numbers. Maybe you see a symbolic bird that keeps showing up. I was speaking to someone earlier today, and she was sharing with me how she was seeing ducks and she saw a cardinal. And that gave her a sense of peace and knowing, comfort, if you will, that her grandfather, who had passed, was with her and helping her navigate what was feeling like a bumpy experience at the moment. But as I said to her, this too shall pass. It's part of life. We are all turning up our experiences because life is ramping up to teach us how to stay centered regardless of the chaos that surrounds us. How to be true to ourselves, as we talked about last week. To thine own self be true. Staying centered in knowing who you are, not getting lost in the banter of other people's versions of a story and opinions. Where do you stand? How do you feel? Just because it's predicted that certain things will happen, how do you step forward knowing that you will be abundant and financially sound and being in a great environment? How do you feel this beautiful energy to be who you've come to be and not allow the external storylines to disrupt you? It's all a part of life. And it's all a part of the spiritual version of yourself. We were all birthed, and perhaps your family did not spend much time talking about your spiritual self. They taught you how to deal with the world, how to listen to them and follow what was necessary to survive. Don't touch the stove, it's hot. Be in the energy of the family traditions. Maybe there was a little guilt going on. You know, there's some families, we got some guilt going on. It's like, geez, stop the guilt. But whatever the dynamic is that's going on in your family, that's their way. And as a little one, you had to count on them. They were the ones who gave you food and shelter and assisted you in the journey. and helped you become the person you are. But now, as we grow into our adult experience, we recognize what might not work for us. We recognize that some of their fears were passed on to us. And often it's their learned beliefs and fears that are the tape that's playing underneath the surface. This is where the personality and the conditioned human emotions go to battle with the higher self. They're like, no, nothing ever works out for you. Don't take a chance and start something new. But yet you have a feeling. You have that feeling that says, I just feel like I should do that. And when you have that feeling, that prompting, please don't talk to everyone and ask their opinion, because they will only give you the opinion based on their experiences. And if you're feeling it and it's as if it's for you, and the higher self is guiding you, that inner prompting is just whispering, go ahead, give it a shot. Why not? Why not? Many people who are very successful in this world, they have put themselves in this wavelength of following their own intuition. And then, of course, checking with the guidance of others who are the experts in the industries to make sure they have the right business plan or project approach. They're there seeking assistance from those who are the experts. But ultimately, they always honor their inner self. I remember when I opened the center, and I had picked my spot, and I was there for just a few months in the same plaza I'm in, and then I looked across the plaza parking lot. Oh, they should never have let me to the door, because I went, look, there's a spot across the way, and it's a big corner spot, and it's got beautiful glass windows, and it's bigger, and I want to go there. That was my feeling. Do you know what that feeling was met with when I shared that with other people? What? You just got in this spot. I'm like, no, I've got to go across the way. And I followed the feeling, even though in some ways it didn't make sense. Build out and start one place only to just 7 months later scuttle across the parking lot and do it all over again, 3 times bigger than where we were. Well, that's what we did. And we formed a sanctuary, a place where people can come and feel the energy and feel the safety and attune to their higher selves, because we've created this environment of peace. Each one of us needs to find a spot, a place to start that environment of peace for ourselves. For some of you, maybe it's just pulling your car over somewhere peaceful and sitting for a few minutes to gather your thoughts. When I pull up to work, I like to sit in the car for a moment and gather my energy and set my intentions for the day. Do you pull up to your job and set your intentions for the day? Or do you fret over what's not working, how things aren't playing out the way you want, or what work or obstacle you may hit the minute you walk through the door? Well, if that's your focus, your conditioned experience is speaking to you, then that's what you will get. But if you sit in the stillness and the oneness and you find that spot, that sweet spot of harmony, and you put yourself in that energy, amazing things are going to happen. The day is going to flow differently. It's going to feel more present, more natural. And you'll surprise yourself. And then you'll look to listen to that inner voice. You'll look to find that stillness. You'll be more open for the guidance. Sometimes people want to go to their boss and ask for a raise. Maybe there's never a good time to ask for a raise, but there's always a great time too, when you sit and you're still and you feel prompted. There's always a great time to sit across from your partner and speak. But you'll be prompted. We can't just do it because we're in our reactory self. No, that doesn't mean you can't be who you are and experience things and blurt something out. You're human. But when you pause, when something's important to you and you present it from a settled place, you're seen, you're heard. How many of you feel like you're not being seen or heard? How many of you feel like the world's coming at you at this time in the world and you don't really have a place to create your sacred space, your vision of what you desire? How many of you are feeling stuck and stagnant and would love to make a change, but that conditioned belief that your parents or someone created with you, or an experience that's creating fear, says, oh, now is not a good time. Oh goodness, don't make a change. That could be scary. There's always a good time to make a change, and yes, we do need to wait, and some things going on around us, they can impact us. But when I opened the center, I didn't even know anybody in South Florida. But I opened a business. Nobody. But they came, but I knew nobody. So it was the feeling. And you put your shoes on just like I do, 1 foot at a time, and you've got the same inner voice that I do. I've just trained myself to listen. I've just trained myself to choose to be connected to the divine. I've chosen to feel joy and harmony in everything that I do, and put things in the perspective of something's going to work out for me, even though it doesn't appear like it is at the moment. I always trust there'll be a resolution. Even if moments in time feel uncomfortable, something will resolve itself, because that's how it always works. And I just learned to go with the flow. And I learned to listen to my inner self. And my inner self says, keep going. My inner self has said, keep going all these years, 13 years, 633 live shows. We've been together, talking, answering questions, each one of us. It is our anniversary month. Not quite our anniversary day yet, but it is our anniversary month. And we are celebrating that. That each one of you has had an opportunity to hear the guidance that comes through me, and it's our souls talking together and gathering in the energy of something higher, greater, stronger, more pure, more divine. That's the connection to the Creator. And each one of you show up authentically, asking your heartfelt questions. And my answers, Spirit's answers, they are here to align with your inner voice. And my hope, my intention, is for me to give you the guidance that on some level, yeah, you kind of knew that already. It was percolating under the surface, but you didn't know if you could trust it. Because you're never alone. Your inner voice is always talking. And you just have to disconnect from the outer chatter so that you know that you are aligned with everything that's divine for you.